Hello and welcome everybody, I'm One Proper Varian and this is Victoria 3's Dev Diary number 34, Canals and Monuments. Quite an interesting one, and before we jump into it, I just want to say I have seen various requests to talk about the monthly update video. Of course, there was a lot of information in there, and to talk about the Lübeck AAR that has occurred in the Discord. We're going to do all of that. I will start doing it over the weekend, or rather maybe even tomorrow, right? We're going to jump into this. There's a lot of new information there, and information that really helps us analyze and interpret what we know about existing mechanics from the dev diaries. Now for today we have Canals and Monuments, and we of course had this sort of base mechanic in Victoria 2, albeit very rudimentary, because back then, I mean, it was mostly, can you build this? Yes, okay, here you go, and otherwise it was solved via events. We also have a system, and it isn't really what Victoria 3 is doing here, I want to clarify that as well, but I want you to keep this system in mind so that you have something more modern to compare it to. We have this system developed by Paradox Thalassic, that is their name. They're currently working on CK3, and they made a system for Imperator Rome when it comes to monuments, a pretty cool aging system as well, so I definitely recommend that you check that out if you haven't seen that before. Now, it isn't directly comparable to what Victoria 3 does, because Victoria 3 has a bit of a different approach, but I just wanted to bring it up again for the modern comparison. Now, let's jump into this. This one was written, I believe, by Daniel Tollmann yet again. Today's topic is Canals and Monuments, unique buildings with special inputs, outputs, and effects. As an example, the Vatican City is the seat of the Catholic Church and a great asset to the Papal States in Victoria 3. As Europe developed and industrialized, the power of religious authority in national politics declined steeply, but never lost its relevance. Can you change the course of history and renew the temporal power of the Pope? So here we have the Vatican City. You may have seen this because it says right here, this is so funny, #1 Vatican City in the world. Obviously, this is a special building. This is the only Vatican City in the world, but yeah, okay, so basically, what happens here? Let's take a look at this entire window. This is, of course, in Lazio. No, of course, right here in Rome. You can see it here as well. Looks pretty good. I like that this symbol is actually right above the Papal City itself, rather than just in general, above Rome, for example. And I'm losing it, right? We've seen these buildings with better textures. Is Daniel Tollmann playing without textures? Daniel Tollmann. Oh, did Daniel Tollmann put the textures down so that we can identify the Papal Palace itself? That might be true. We've definitely seen better textures for this. This looks very odd. I love, by the way, and I know this is off topic somewhat, but I have been playing around with CK3 roads, and I was looking for dirt road textures, and I gotta tell you, the way Victoria 3 does it, it just looks so good. The dirt roads of Victoria 3 are absolutely precious. Now, let's see, 13.0 bucks is the average annual wage of any worker here. We have just this normal production method. There's nothing you can do about this, but it is subsidized by you, the state, of course. The wages are right here, and they produce plus 25% weekly influence gain multiplier, quite nice, and plus 25% devout political strength. So this directly will influence how the devout group is doing within your state, in this case in Vatican City. If you conquer this building still exists, it will apply to your tag, and you can then activate it or deactivate it. Basically, the building is fully employed, and that is that. Monuments are unique buildings only available in specific states, each with its own 3D model on the map. Just as buildings can output goods, they can also output both national and local modifiers, capacities, and effects in the pops working there. The Vatican City, for instance, outputs the influence capacity as well as greatly increasing the political strength of the devout interest group. Meanwhile, the White House adds a multiplier to your national bureaucracy output as well as increasing the amount of political strength pops gain from votes, meaning it encourages democracy. Not all monuments are present at the start date. Some, like the Eiffel Tower, must be constructed, and monuments are significantly more costly and time-consuming to construct than standard buildings. That makes a lot of sense. We're going to see that in greater detail for a canal in the bottom. I really do wonder what the construction of the Statue of Liberty looks like, because it is constructed in France and then transported to America, of course, as a gift, so there has to be some interplay there as well. And quite honestly, wouldn't it be kind of cute? And I don't think this is going to be in, but wouldn't it be cute if they constructed the statue? I believe they constructed it. No, honestly, I don't know where they constructed it in France, but if you could see it physically being constructed in France in the stages as you go, and then ultimately transported right to America, that would be pretty neat. Either way, so these are special buildings. They can only be built in certain locations, and they are very, very costly to actually construct. If you decide that a monument is unaffordable or that you aren't interested in its effects, so because you're subsidizing it, for instance, if you are a communist Italy and no longer want the church to wield so much power, then you can simply defund them. On release, we intend to have 11 different monuments in total. Sounds pretty alright. We have, of course, 2 of those as canals, so that would be the Suez Canal, the Panama Canal. I assume the canal in North Germany would also be in. It was in Victoria 2, of course, right? And that would already be 2 or 3. Then we have the White House, we have the Statue of Liberty, we have the Eiffel Tower, we have Vatican City. Anything else? Those are the ones that we know about at this time. The Panama Canal links the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, finally completed in 1914 after decades of planning and construction. Ships no longer had to take the long and treacherous round around South America to travel between the east and west. Yes, we can see the trees and houses in the canal. We'll fix it right. The canal itself looks pretty sweet though. Looks pretty cute. You got this. It just makes me wonder, because this canal, and they talk about this in a second as well, but this canal basically is in a sort of position where it connects 2 sea zones, 2 trade, sea nodes, actually, not zones. We don't have zones in this game, we have nodes. Sea nodes, it connects them. And this would be a perfect mechanic for, well, and I know I keep coming back to this, but to Sunless Sea, right? It would be perfect there, especially it plays such a big role to actually connect these underground, the Untersee, and then the normal location, and to actually connect the islands themselves would also be quite interesting. You could do this in a very interchanging fashion, if it is as flexible as it seems here, by you just saying this canal connects X and Y, and it is fairly easy in comparison to other games, because the sea trade nodes, or the sea nodes, are quite large, you know, in comparison to how they are in other games. Anyway, like monuments, canals are unique buildings with a special set of inputs and outputs, but the true allure of constructing a canal is that it allows you to create new connections between sea nodes, allowing ships to travel through the isthmuses, my apologies, of Panama and Suez. This significantly reduces the convoy costs for trading and supplying armies across vast ocean distances, as well as your vulnerability to unscrupulous rivals trying to disrupt your supply lines. That is, of course, the exact purpose of this, so really, really cool. If you remember, just a reminder, the route that exists between, for example, your colonies or other markets that you have trade routes with is always calculated as the shortest route that is possible, meaning the canal will immediately basically make your routes much shorter, because that will immediately be calculated. It's an automated process. Behind the scenes, a variable is increased every month until the goal is reached, so this is for the journal entry system, which triggers the completion event. The journal entry also acts as a reminder that you are spending a lot of bureaucracy on this project and that it will eventually be made available again once the survey is complete. This is interesting in the sense that this is the application in the journal system itself here. Obviously, we had this in Victoria 2 via the decision system, which still to a degree appears to be existing in Victoria 3, but I really like that journal systems now are implemented as this sort of tracking tool, as this sort of what are your choices tool, right? So this is this sort of aggregate that you didn't have in any of the other games. You had events, you had decisions, and so on. Maybe you had a focus tree. It was all over the place, and here it is all gathered yet again. The journal system is a small but a very fine entry that I welcome without a doubt. This is the Suez survey. Will complete if, await the completion of the survey, of course, and if it is completed, Great Britain loses surveying Suez Isthmus, which gives you minus 1,000 weekly bureaucracy. That's a lot, and it triggers the event Suez Isthmus surveyed. Debug, this journal entry has some sort of on pulse, so I guess it checks every now and again with this pulse whether something has yet occurred. And you can see the light, my god, okay, whatever. You can also confederate Canada. That is, of course, one of the potential journal entries that we have. Constructing a canal is far from trivial. Before any work can begin, an extensive survey of the region needs to be conducted, costing a hefty chunk of bureaucracy for the surveyor for around 3 years. Either the owner of the state or a great power with an interest in the region can conduct a survey. Any number of counties can potentially conduct their own surveys and compete to build the canal themselves. Meaning, in the first stage, if you want to build this canal, you need to survey it. You can either hold land there to do it, or you can not hold land there and just survey it by declaring an interest. Remember, declaring interest costs you influence, and or rather, you know, it maintains some of your influence and binds it there. And if you actually own land there, then you just naturally have an interest. That is basically how that works. We've made the conscious decision to avoid starting wars or diplomatic plays through scripted content wherever possible, instead offering incentives for the player to start their own plays and encouraging the AI to pursue journal entry goals. This is, of course, also true for Confederate Canada. Instead of you taking that and then declaring war, by starting a diplomatic play, it gives you the tools to start a diplomatic play, and then you can do it whenever you want. This is a good approach, no doubt about it. The player has the option to either gain a claim on Sinai or to improve relationships with the owner country, helping you along your chosen path but not locking you into a particular course of action. That is pretty good, making it so that you can either cooperate with them or you can work against them. Suez Isthmus surveyed, event in home counties. Our survey of the Suez Isthmus is complete. It would be possible to construct a canal linking the Mediterranean to the Red Sea. Next, we must acquire the land from Egypt. There's been a long-held belief that the water levels on either side of the Suez Isthmus differed greatly. We have now proven that this is not the case. We will make a suitable offer. I assume this makes it basically so that you can buy the treaty port, and then coercion is the simplest form of persuasion. Adds, construct the Suez Canal to the Journal of Great Britain. British relationships towards Egypt deteriorate by 20. Of course, you're saying, give me that land, thank you very much. And Great Britain gains a claim on Sinai. This decision to acquire land in the Sinai is now available, and it is now possible to construct the Suez Canal in Sinai. Debug, right, these are debug stuff. That is good, that is for modders, of course. I like the event picture, and I do like, although the textures are not present here. Daniel, what kind of settings are you playing on? The textures are not present, but this is basically what you get. I like the event image without a doubt. Once you have completed your survey, the path diverges depending on whether you own the appropriate land. If you already own either a treaty port or the whole state region, you can simply begin constructing the canal. But if not, you will need to find a way to acquire it, either through monetary or coercive means. A decision becomes available, allowing you to purchase a treaty port in the appropriate state region in exchange for a series of very large weekly payments, assuming you can convince the local rulers to part with the port. You might, however, decide that you'd rather keep your money and start the diplomatic play for a treaty port or the entire state region. The former will cost you a lot less infamy, which might lead either to a peaceful concession to your demands or to war. This is pretty good. This is a much more involved system. Obviously, implicitly, in Victoria 2, this already existed. If you wanted to build it, you needed to conquer it, you needed to have it. This implicitly was there. This embeds it, however, in the journal entry system, making it so that you have all the choices that you had in Victoria 2, except they're actually brought to your attention. You actually see what is going on. This dev diary as a whole, listen, monuments, these are not features that are going to blow you away. They are great. I think they really add to the notion of there are individual things in individual regions that can change your gameplay feeling, but these are not features where you don't buy the game for these features. But I really want to highlight just how much the fact that the journal entry system binds everything together, decisions, surveys, events, event chains, it binds all of that together and really puts it together. It hasn't been done like this, and I really, really enjoy that system. I know I said that as well when we did the journal entry system, but this is definitely one of those things that I think go a bit under the radar. I think the journal entry system is one of the ones that really just pull things together in a game that has so many different options that usually aren't put together, right? So, big fan of this. Now, in the next week, we are going to be exploring even further where the journal entry system can be, used, and that is expeditions and decisions. I'm very eager to learn how decisions work, because my fear here is that they might counteract how well the journal system ties it all together, right? Whether decisions are embedded in the journal system now, or whether they are separate, whether you have it split now, those are the questions that I would like to see. Either way, this again comes from Daniel Tollman. Thank you so much. I will see you when it comes to Victoria 3 later, not today, but in the next coming days with the monthly update analysis, and then of course with the topic of the Lübeck AAR. For now, see you later, alligator.